Hey guys, John B here again from Phone Arena. You're watching our in-depth video review of the Apple iPad. The new iPad, as Apple likes to call it, or some of us like to refer to as the third generation one. Follows after the iPad 2, and it comes nearly a year after the iPad 2's release, so pretty quick, normal pattern for the iPad, the new iPad here. So it's available right now. You can pick it up through a host of different places. It starts at $500 for the base 16GB Wi-Fi model, and it goes up as much as $829 for the 64GB 4G enabled versions for AT&T and Verizon. This guy sports some incremental upgrades, the first and most prominent one being the 9.7-inch Retina display it has. It doubles the resolution of the iPad 2. It sports a new processor and also an improved camera. So let's take a look and see how it stands in the greater scheme of things. So let's talk design first. On the left we have the new iPad, on the right the iPad 2. Honestly, they are exactly alike with their designs. Nothing really different except for the fact that the new iPad is a hairline thicker than the iPad 2. It's only 1mm thicker, but still relatively streamlined. We're not really, it's not a big complaint of ours. It's still fairly streamlined by today's standards. And on top of that, it is a little bit heavier than the iPad 2, but after a while holding around the new iPad, you really don't notice it much. It's still very comfortable to hold, even with one hand, though the preferable choice is probably two-handed operation, but it still has one iconic looking design that's very favorable. We like its choice of materials, very fine, premium feeling. You have the milled aluminum casing, complemented with the glass covered display. It gives it a good sense of durability and strength. And overall, it's still one appealing looking tablet, but doesn't change much from the previous offering. So what's the big deal about the new iPad? Well, for starters, it now offers a Retina display, and it's absolutely a benchmark device in every single way possible. It still has the same 9.7-inch size display as the iPad 2. It's an IPS LCD panel, same type panel you used as before, but instead of having a 1024 by 768 resolution, it doubles it. The new iPad now features a resolution of 2048 by 1536. When you do the math, it equals to a pixel density of 264 ppi, which of course not as high as some smartphones that we've seen, but for a tablet, that is very respectable. Now if we look closely here, you might not see in the video, but the detail with the Retina display is just immaculate. It's just so much sharper looking, a lot more detailed. You can't even recognize any pixels whatsoever, and you really have to see it for yourself to actually appreciate its quality. At the same time, see that it is an IPS LCD panel. It exhibits all those qualities that we love about it. It has some natural looking colors, though Apple does mention that it offers 40% more saturation with its tones, and it's quite evident. It definitely seems a lot more punchier looking. You still have a high contrast, great viewing angles, so it makes for a great experience using it outdoors, and easily for reading, watching videos. It's definitely a pleasure to use, and it's not something we've seen before on any device out there, and that's what makes it so captivating in every single way. Part of its iconic design, the new iPad still features the same home button, physical home button. There's no accidental presses, and still exhibits the same springy response as before. Above the display, however, the new iPad features the same exact front-facing VGA camera as before, so there's nothing really special about it, mainly used for FaceTime and the occasional self-portrait. If you happen to pick up either Verizon or AT&T's version of the iPad, you'll find the microSIM card slot on the left side of the tablet. Not surprisingly, the new iPad features the same set of physical buttons. You have the dedicated power button, volume control, and the mute switch right here. They all have a very distinctive feel and very responsive too. On the bottom edge of the tablet, you have the same 30-pin proprietary connection port for charging data connectivity. You can also get video out, but you have to get an optional digital AV adapter to get that functionality. And on the left side here, you have these micro dots, which tucks away the tablet's internal speaker. Quite refreshing to tell you the truth, especially when the iPad 2 wasn't great when it comes to taking photos. The new iPad offers a newer and more improved camera. It's a 5-megapixel iSight camera on there. It features an f2.4 lens and has a sensor with backside illumination, so you know it's going to take better photos right from the start. Honestly, there isn't a whole lot new with the experience found with the new iPad, just because if you've been using the iPad 2 and been checking out iOS 5.1, it's pretty much the same exact experience. It resorts to having the same typical grid-like view with its icons, so it's very simplistic. Doesn't have the eye candy of Android or the usefulness of widgets, but this is what the iconic appearance of iOS is all about. Very easy, very low learning curve, so if you're a first-time user, it'll fit in very quickly. And we still love all the things about it, such as the notifications panel, the multitasking aspect of iOS, and the various gestures in play, such as the 5-finger one to minimize, the 4-finger one to swipe between open applications, and the swipe up one to access the multitasking tray. And in the end, it's just very nice that's intuitive and easy, but we still, yearn for something fresh and new with it. This time around, it's obvious that Apple's upping the ante with the new iPad, just because it's powered by an Apple A5X system on a chip, so it breaks down to a 1 GHz dual-core processor and a quad-core GPU with 1 GB of RAM, and it delivers a really great responsive experience with the new iPad. It doesn't slow down whatsoever, very quick with a lot of operations, whether you're opening up applications, watching videos, playing games. It is pretty instantaneous and just maintains that consistent rate throughout every aspect, which is, a great thing to see just because there's no slowdown whatsoever. And honestly, this is a lot faster than what we've seen on any Android-based tablet out there. But then again, that's the consistent theme that we tend to see with most of Apple's products. We've never had any issues using the iPad's on-screen keyboards just because it's so responsive and also spacious, very easy in the fingers for typing up long passages of text. So whether it's the landscape or the portrait option, it's very effective. But if you want to be a little bit more advanced, you could try out the split-style keyboard that it has to offer. There's a little bit of learning curve to it, but once you master it, it's also pretty good. The new thing with the iPad is the voice dictation service. It's an alternative for typing up messages, so if you don't want to type it up using your fingers, you could always say it and it'll automatically do it for you. So let's test it out here really quick. This is a test to see how well it works. So there you go. If you're big into emails, you'll find the email application on the iPad very usable, and nothing new about it. Same exact experience as before. Utilize the same two-panel layout. You have your listing, your inbox on the left. You can also view all the other inboxes as well, and you have the emails contents on the right. Setup is pretty easy. Generally, your username and password, and automatically will set up. One of the other noteworthy new features with the new iPad is the fact that it now has 4G LTE connectivity with Verizon or AT&T. So download speeds are pretty fast. Complex web pages load in no time at all, and a lot of people are going to appreciate that, especially if you always want to be connected. As far as the web browsing performance goes, it's very typical of previous iPads. Very quick with its movement. You could tell with kinetic scrolling, pinch gestures, a good amount of fluidity, no slowdown or lag whatsoever. And the beauty about it is, of course, the Retina display with its high resolution. Even at a zoomed out view, we're able to make out fine text with no issues at all. And in the end, it's just a great thing to use. If there's one aspect of the new iPad that's desperate for a new makeover, it has to be the music player interface, just because it's the same exact one that we find on the iPad 2 and even the iPad before it. It displays all your albums, of course, in this grid-like view. You make a selection, you can see the songs, and as you're playing a specific track, it displays the album cover, the track information, the on-screen controls. Nothing out of ordinary, and it's rather conventional by today's standards. Nothing really glitzy looking, and we just wish that they had like some sort of cool cover flow mode or something to really make things look spiffy. As far as the audio quality, it's good, robust, and doesn't stray at the loudest volume setting. Well, if you're big into watching videos on the iPad, of course you'll appreciate what the new iPad has to offer, just because with its Retina display, it just makes for a fantastic and engaging experience. It produces some nice poppy colors thanks to the IPS LCD display. And on top of that, it moves swimmingly, no slowdown or lag thanks to the processor. And all in all, it's definitely something appealing to the eyes. Luckily, the camera interface on the new iPad has been revamped, and as a whole, you can find it with iOS 5.1, even on the iPad 2. It's just nice just because the on-screen shutter key is positioned now on the right side, so it's very accessible to our finger, whereas before it was at the bottom edge here, so whether it was in portrait or landscape, it was always at the bottom corner, so it made it a little bit difficult to actually take photos. You can still snapshot by pressing the volume up key, but the interface itself is still very, very uncluttered. It's simplified. Not that much there. It's lacking any manual settings, but the beauty in it is that it knows how to take beautiful looking shots. One of the biggest complaints that we had with the iPad 2 was that its camera was pretty abysmal with its quality. Luckily, Apple has learned its lesson, and this time it has outfitted the new iPad with a respectable one. It's a 5-megapixel iSight camera, which features an f2.4 lens and a sensor with backside illumination, so you know that the quality is going to be vastly improved this time around. You know, we still find it a little bit awkward trying to use a tablet to take photos. We do find ourselves using the new iPad more often for the simple reasoning that the quality is just so great. Whether it's outdoors, indoors, low lighting, it pretty much handles all scenarios pretty good, and it has good details, balanced color tones, exposures, and low lighting shots. Even though it doesn't offer a flash, it's able to compensate things by bumping up the exposure to draw out more details, and overall it's definitely above average compared to some other tablets. Well, the improvements extend to the new iPad's 1080p high-definition video recording, just because with the iPad 2 720p recording, it was pretty bad with its grainy details and muddy appearance. That's not a problem here with the new iPad. Details are pretty high, rich in its tones. On top of that, you have accurate-looking colors, gradual exposure, and it moves swimmingly at 29 frames per second, so no jerkiness whatsoever. It's definitely a very inviting thing to watch. It also has this anti-shake feature, so it stays steady even if you have shaky hands, so that's a neat feature. And in the end, it's a great thing to use, even though it's still a little bit awkward trying to shoot videos with a tablet. Take into account that the new iPad features 4G LTE connectivity, you have that higher resolution Retina display, and also a faster processor. Some people might question its battery life, but that's not the case here with the new iPad, just because it's outfitted with a higher capacity battery, which in turn, gives it a little bit thicker appearance versus its predecessor, but it still delivers the same battery life as before. So if you're primarily going to use it for with Wi-Fi connectivity, you'll get a lot of usage out of it. In fact, probably close to 2 days on normal usage. But if you're primarily using it on 4G LTE connectivity, you could expect it to be, get you by a good solid work day, but you'll still need to charge it every night. In the last year alone, we've seen a ton of different Android-based tablets on the market, but even then, the iPad 2 remained to be a standout hit amongst the landscape. But now that its successor is here, it really sets the benchmark of what you expect out of a premium price tablet. Now, when you take into consideration all it has under the hood, such as the high-resolution Retina display, the 4G LTE connectivity, and also the faster processor, it's pretty amazing that it's still priced at starts off at $500 or $629 for the 4G LTE version. It's definitely a competitive price point, and it delivers all the lovable things that we love about the iPad. It has a great experience, good design. Now it takes better photos and videos than before, so even though it's still a little bit weird trying to take photos with the tablet, you might find yourself doing it more times than none just because of the improved camera that it has to offer. And of course, the experience is unchanged. Some people will like that and some people won't, but it's still what makes the iPad iconic. And if you currently have the iPad 2 and you're considering buying this guy, you might want to think about it more, just because the only big benefit that you're going to get out of the box is just the higher resolution display and also 4G LTE connectivity. Besides that, if you're holding on to the first generation iPad, or if you're just looking for a general tablet, you really want to consider the new iPad. It's just a lovely thing to look at, especially that it's a Retina display. It's something to behold, to tell you the truth. It's not something we've seen before, and it's quite appealing in many aspects. So if you'd like to learn more about the new iPad, you can check out our website, guys, phonearena.com. This is John V. As always, thanks for watching.